JJ Inc. from Against the Wall, and you're listening to UCY.TV.
Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they war. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower class and social slide, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See the shit, force of bear. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again. Yeah.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Game On right here on UCY.TV on a sunny evening, May the 17th, 2016. No chemtrails in the sky today that I'm aware of. And sunny, but still very cool for this time of year. And if anybody knows how to get a hold of Mark Zuckerberg or whatever his name is from Facebook, pass it over to me, would you please? Because I've turned into a digital jailbird by the look of it. I was banned last week until just before midnight Saturday, and today's only Tuesday, and I've been banned again till Friday night. So I get, well, it looks like I get to put up and post one, share one post a week by the look of it, and then busted again. And they don't even offer you bail, right? You can't even get bailed out of that jail. No early release, no nothing, man. That's really sad. Bet you if I was a left-wing Jew, I'd be out on the street by now. But I'm not, so that's that. So I'm busted again. But, you know, the flowers are growing. Everything looks alive again. The ferns are coming up. Rhubarb's coming up. But, you know, if you live in Canada, life's not what it used to be. The Senate, I think it is now, is involved in this nonsense. Yes, the Senate Committee wants to give patients with dementia, grievous illness, the right to choose death in advance. Under Senate recommendations, parents with dementia or other grievous illnesses could choose to die while they're still able to make decisions for themselves. Groups such as Dying with Dignity have advocated for the right for patients with dementia to be able to consent and request help to die before their illness robs them of the ability to do so. Now, we've been through this before. There was a lot of pushback from a lot of people on this whole thing, and so they went back to work on it. Now the Senate committee is recommending what they had in the first place, was that you can pre-sign up, you know, and, you know, you just keep taking them vaccines and you keep taking them flu shots, and if you're doing that, you better sign up now, because chances are you're going to end up with a grievous illness or dementia. So you want to pre-sign. Anyways, the Senate committee, let's see, to express their wishes for assistance in dying while they still have the capacity to make a decision for themselves. It's the most significant change that senators who have studied Bill C-14 are calling for in a report tabled this afternoon. It responds to testimony by groups such as Dying with Dignity, which have advocated for the right of patients, yada, yada, yada. The Senate committee will also urge that a 15-day waiting period between the request and the admission of any medical assistance in dying be restored after Commerce Committee recommended last week it be reduced to a 10-day waiting period. So it's a big deal. Huge difference between 10 and 15 days. Same thing. They're passing legislation so that they can kill your ass as long as you ask them to kill your ass. The senators also suggest that where mental illness is an underlying condition of a patient suffering from a grievous and irremediable illness, disease, or disability, the waiting period should be 90 days, sources tell the Star. Okay, so the senators and the politicians and the bureaucrats and the police and the preachers and the teachers all have to have a 90-day waiting period because all of who I just mentioned are most definitely mentally ill. So they have to wait 90 days. So I think we start signing them up now, and maybe we can clean some of this mental illness out of our position here. However, the recommendation to include advanced directives in law is one that draws a clear line between the views of the government, the Commons, and the Senate on the controversial issue, which was dominated parliamentary debate this spring. The Liberal proposes only to provide access to medical assistance in dying to persons who are mentally competent adults, 18 years or older, who have a serious incurable illness, disease, or disability, are unable to give voluntary informed consent. So, in this country, you can sign up to get whacked by the government, will put you out of your misery as long as you're 18 years or older, but you can't buy a smoke till you're 19. So you can kill yourself. You can get the government to kill you before you can buy your first cigarette. Sounds reasonable. It says medical aid to die should be restricted to patients who are at the end of their natural lives, but can still express consent and whose death is reasonably foreseeable. Well, everybody's death is reasonably foreseeable, isn't it? I mean, that's really stretching it. Consent and whose death is reasonably foreseeable. If you were born, you're going to die. So your death is foreseeable, isn't it? A phrase many critics say is unreasonably vague. No shit. No shit, unreasonably vague. Reasonably foreseeable that you're going to die. That's everybody. But which the Canadian Medical Association says its professionals understand. These would be the same people that are jamming vaccines into your children's arms at an alarming rate. The same professionals that are telling you that global warming is real. The same professionals that tell you that GMO food is good for you and fluoride in your water is good for you. These professionals are all got to get grouped in with the mentally ill, so they get 90 days before they get to put down. The Liberal bill proposes to defer all three issues, those of advanced directives, mature minors, and whether medical aid in dying should be available in case where mental illness is the sole underlying condition, for study by Parliament 5 years down the road. Last week, the Standing Commons Committee on Justice and Human Rights proposed an amendment to require independent review to begin no later than 6 months after the bill becomes law. The Commons Committee proposed other amendments of a relatively minor nature, such as clarifying the preamble to recognize the rights of conscious and medical practitioners, clarifying the bill's requirement of a patient's voluntary and express consent, providing for the independence of 2 doctors or nurse practitioners who must sign off on a request and extending regulatory powers to collect data on medically assisted deaths. Some advocates press for a guarantee in the law, not just in the preamble, that doctors would not be required to assist patients to die. But the Liberal government has always said it is not necessary to put in a stronger or more explicit protection because the bill does not impose a positive duty on any medical practitioner to aid in a patient's death yet. The Senate Standing Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee does not go so far as to recommend physician-assisted death be available for mature minors or for people with mental illness. The majority of the Senate committee recommended a removal of the commitment to explore other situations in which a person may seek access to medical assistance in dying, namely situations giving rise to requests by mature minors and requests where mental illness is a sole underlying medical condition. Still, its report contains much more robust changes to the Liberal government's legislation than the Commons Committee did. In one respect, the Senate report toughens the bill's definition of who would be eligible for assistance in dying by including terminal illness in the criteria of a grievous and irremediable medical condition. In this way, the legislation would make it more explicit that the bill applies to those near end of their life. It says there should be no allowance for anyone who is the beneficiary of a person's death to be involved in obtaining their consent. The Commons Committee amendments are now before the House, but the Liberals and opposition parties are locked in procedural wrangling over whether or not to extend sitting hours as the June 17th deadline imposed by the Supreme Court of Canada looms. In February 2015, the High Court ruling struck down an absolute criminal prohibition on assisted suicide and gave Ottawa a year to legislate a new statutory regime to extend medical aid in dying to competent adults under a physician's care. Little was done by the Conservative government before the federal election. The High Court granted a brief extension. The Liberals say their goal is to enact the law by the deadline. The government has already invoked the time limits on debate in Parliament and may be set to do so again. But even if the government does get the bill through third and final reading in the Commons this week, sending it to the Senate by Thursday or Friday, time is tight. Parliament is on another break next week when the Liberal and Conservative parties hold conventions in Winnipeg and Vancouver. Senators on Tuesday suggested it was highly unlikely the Senate would complete its own study of the bill before the end of June. Senator Claude Kerrigan said he does not believe the Justice Minister's warning of a legal vacuum if the bill isn't law by June, saying the Supreme Court of Canada ruling provides a temporary framework. But Senator George Baker said there is an urgency to pass the bill because the High Court ruling does not require physicians to get a second opinion or request in writing or a waiting period for reconsideration of a request. He said people could come to Canada as medical tourists, and in the absence of data collection regulations, no records need to be kept of physician-assisted suicide. He said it would be irresponsible of Parliament not to try to pass a statute as soon as possible. The Senate committee heard from 66 witnesses, including the Minister of Justice and Health, regulatory authorities, professional organizations, along with many experts, academics, medical practitioners, families, and other stakeholders. The committee also received many written submissions. So that's your, when you go through that whole story, that's just problem, reaction, solution, right? How are we going to drop the population? We need a reaction, then we need a solution. It's all right there. Over and over and over again, we get hit with the same garbage. So if you have an ill family member, I suggest you be very careful when you take them to hospital in the future. Very, very careful. I was reading a paper today, the Red Deer, I don't have it in front of me right now, but the Red Deer Advocate. And I saw a piece in there about eugenics and how they, this is just a rebranded eugenics is all it is. Okay, way back in the 1800s even, they were whacking people because they were mentally ill, or people thought they were mentally ill, or there was even a thing if they had syphilis, they would sterilize them. They could force sterilize them in Alberta. And the eugenics program, it expanded to take in not just the mentally ill, and that eugenics program did not get done in or stopped in Alberta till 1972. Okay, so 1972 is when we had all the doctor shows on TV, Trust the Doctors, and that kind of crap, and that's when we brought in the modern medical, the big pharma. So the eugenics program never stopped. It was just simply rebranded, and now it's being ramped up again so that it's in your face. So welcome to Canada. And I'm sure pretty soon I'll be on the list. You know, I'll be one of those people that, as the chief inspector of the OPP called me at home and explained to me what my problem was, and that was that I think differently than 99% of the community. In other words, you're not a sheep, therefore you must be done away with. So, yeah, dissidents, all this kind of stuff. Look out. Welcome to my country. Let us see what else we got here. Yeah. Well, let me go back here to the Star. Apparently, I got banned from the Toronto Star Facebook, too. I get banned from everywhere, man. It's ridiculous. Where did I see this story here? I got to read this one because I'm going to be really careful on this one. Ottawa tables bill to outlaw transgender hate speech and discrimination. The legislation would, if passed, make it illegal to prevent someone from getting a job or to discriminate in the workplace on the basis of gendered identity or gender expression. Interim Conservative leader Rona Ambrose says she plans to support the new transgender rights bill. The transgendered persons and human rights advocates are cheering Liberal legislation to make it illegal to discriminate on the basis of gender expression or identity. But Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould chose the words of one young advocate, 10-year-old Charlie Lethwin-Rickett, to sum up the achievement of Tuesday's announcement. Charlie told me this law is one important step that offers our family and my friends here today one simple thing: hope. Charlie is wise beyond his years, Wilson-Raybould told reporters. The new legislation which this is so sad, you know. This 10-year-old kid knows what about what? Absolutely nothing. So they dragged this kid out, and somehow, maybe they'll tell us later on in the story, how this kid and his family now have hope. Yeah, hope. But this is the same thing Suzuki did with his little daughter, 12 years old, puts her up at Rio, brainwashes this kid from the day she's born that the world's going to end and it's your and my fault, and that her daddy's actually not a psychopath, which he is. Basically is guilty of child abuse against his own daughter for filling her head full of garbage and then sticking this kid up in front of the crowd, in front of the world, in front of all the media cameras, and this little 12-year-old girl explains to us what's wrong with the planet. And now they got a little 10-year-old kid up here telling us that this transgendered legislation is going to give his family hope. Yes, little Charlie is wise beyond her. Oh, it's a her. Little Charlie is wise beyond her years, Wilson-Raybould told reporters. The new legislation would strengthen provisions of the Canadian Human Rights Act to bar discrimination in federal jurisdictions on the basis of gender identity and gender expression. Ontario adopted similar language for the Province Human Rights Act in 2012. It would also amend the criminal code to extend protections against hate speech to gender identity and gender expression. Interim conservative leader Rona Ambrose says she plans to vote in favor of the Liberal government's proposed transgender rights legislation. Well, of course she's going to vote in favor of it because it came from the frickin' UN, where every other piece of bullshit legislation comes from in all of the countries. They fire this crap up, then your so-called leaders sign on the letters of intent or treaties, and then both parties over in your country vote for it. Get a rope. These are the most treasonous, useless dogs that were ever put on the planet, and they call themselves our government. Ambrose says she still Ambrose says she will allow her caucus colleagues to vote as they wish. Other conservative MPs say they look forward to reading the legislation, discussing it with caucus colleagues before making up their minds, of which do not function properly. Wilson said the changes would help ensure that Canadians are free to identify themselves. Well, okay, I'm going to identify myself as the king. Anybody got a problem with that? And as the king, I'm saying build some gallows ASAP. We got some business to take care of. So Canadians are free to identify themselves. Fine. Then I shall. I shall be the king. No one should be refused a job, disadvantaged in the workplace, be unable to access services, or be the target of harassment and violence because of their gender identity or gender expression, she said. Well, let's see. I'm a white male. I'm presently unable to drive anywhere. I've been harassed, intimidated, violence. I've been assaulted on several occasions, and I haven't harmed anybody or anything or broken any frickin' laws. Now, maybe it's time for me to do like that guy did on MASH and don a dress. Because apparently you can't harass me or intimidate me or violate me in any way, shape, or form because of gender identity or gender expression, she said. But by sweet Jesus, if you're a white male trying to explain reality, look out. There ain't no protection for you. Transgender and other trans diverse persons have the right to live free from discrimination, hate propaganda, and hate crime. Me, a white male, not so lucky. As someone who was born a boy but now identifies as a girl, Charlie has suffered her share of taunting and abuse. Well, Charlie's 10 years old. Okay? Charlie don't know jack shit. Okay? He's probably got teachers in school. Charlie looks by the picture like someone that is not of real high intellect, someone who is easily targeted by the teachers who are looking for people they can influence into this nonsense, and Charlie looks like a perfect target. So this is complete and total child abuse, but they're all raising Charlie's hand in the air, and now Charlie's family has hope. Let's see. For me, this is really extremely important and will protect me in the future, Charlie told reporters. Chris Rickett, her father, said he was overwhelmed by the government's move. Well, Chris Rickett, you're an asshole. That's all I got to say. Nobody should have to go around, no matter young or old, and feel that they have to hide, that they have to be someone else. Charlie is her. She can be whoever she wants and and nobody should question that. Well, then I'm going to be the king. If Charlie can be whoever she wants to be, then by jumpins' I can be whoever I want to be, and I want to be the king. And nobody should question that, according to this legislation. To know that she herself can feel a little more secure today, just a great thing, said Rickett from Stittsville, about 25 kilometers southwest of the insane asylum known as Ottawa. The Liberals made an announcement on the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, Biphobia. Dozens of transgender persons advocates were on hand on Parliament Hill for the announcement, applauding as the minister laid out the proposed changes. There's 34 million people in this country, yet dozens of people were on Parliament Hill. Angela Reid of the Trans Equality Society of Alberta said social attitudes are changing, but cautioned that transgender persons continue to face backlash, ranging from outright abuse to bureaucratic challenges obtaining driver's license, passports, or more subtle discrimination like missed promotions or being excluded from work events. The Federal Human Rights Act already goes some way to providing protection on the basis of sex, but advocates and government officials said Tuesday MOVE would explicitly bar discrimination on the basis of gender expression and identity. The New Democrats have attempted to legislate similar safeguards in the past using private members' bill despite twice passing the Commons. The legislation was stymied by the Senate. NDP MP Randall Garrison, one sponsor of those past efforts, bluntly blames transphobia within the Senate for the failure of the bills to pass. Certain senators were exhibiting the very transphobia that this bill was designed to combat, Garrison said, adding that he's hoping attitudes in upper chambers have changed. What a load of garbage. Another case of problem, reaction, solution. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up. Now, Ontario is to spend $7 billion on sweeping climate change plan. Yahoo! The Ontario government, which is over $300 billion in the hole, far more in the hole, almost twice the amount it's in the hole as the state of California, which the state of California has a bigger population than the entire country of Canada. And the province, one of our provinces here, Ontario, which I have the exclusive pleasure to be part of, is almost twice as much in the hole as the state of California. But we found another $7 billion somewhere, but then we signed a carbon deal with California. The Ontario government will spend more than $7 billion over 4 years on a sweeping climate change plan that will affect every, and I mean every, let me repeat that, every aspect of your life. That's what it says here, every aspect of life. From what people drive to how they heat their homes and workplaces in a bid to slash the province's carbon footprint. It's a big one. Huge footprint. Damn big. I almost fell in it the other day. I heard buses are starting to fall and it gets swallowed up. Ontario will begin phasing out natural gas for heating, provide incentives to retrofit buildings, and give rebates to drivers who buy electric vehicles. It will also require that gasoline sold in the province contain less carbon, bring in building code rules requiring all new homes by 2030 to be heated with electricity or geothermal systems, and set a target for 12% of all new vehicle sales to be electric by 2025. While such policies are likely to be popular with the eco-conscious voters who will now receive government help, whoop, 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 to green their lives, they are certain to cause mass disruption for the province's automotive and energy sectors, which will have to make significant changes to the way they do business. And they have already created tension within the government between Environment Minister Glenn, I'm so gay I wear a bow tie, Murray, and some of his fellow ministers who worry he is going too far. The 57-page Climate Change Action Plan was debated by Premier Kathleen Wynne's Cabinet of Lunatics Wednesday and subsequently obtained by the Globe and Mail. Stamped Cabinet Confidential. Well, if the Globe and Mail got it and it was stamped confidential, then you would think somebody's up the creek in trouble, but not a chance because the media, it's all again problem, reaction, solution. The document lays out a strategy from 2017, which is next year, to 2021. It contains about 80 different policies, grouped into 32 different actions. Each action has a price tag attached to it, as well as an estimate of the amount of emissions it will cut by 2020. The Globe had previously uncovered details of the plan, but this is the first time the full blueprint has been revealed. The strategy is scheduled to be further reviewed by cabinet ministers and fine-tuned, sources said, with public release slated for June. The many new programs would be paid for out of revenue from the poor sons of bitches that live here. No, that's not what it says. From the province's upcoming cap-and-trade system. Oh, yes, it is. It's being paid out of us, poor sons of bitches' pockets, which is expected to be approved by the legislature this week and will come into effect at the start of next year. Together, the cap-and-trade system and the action plan, this is what the UN tells them: get an action plan, have a vision, make a vision statement, get an action plan, man. Same template, just put something else in it. Are the backbone of the province's strategy to cut emissions to 15% below 1990 levels by 2020, 37% by 2030, and are you ready for a drum roll, please? 80% by 2050. So between now and 2050, there's going to be a lot of coal carcasses laying around because what's the problem with the planet? CO2. And what do you exhale? CO2. And how are you going to get down to 80%? Get rid of a shitload of people. And that is a conspiracy to commit mass murder, so therefore get some rope. We are on the cusp, it says, of a once-in-a-lifetime transformation. It's a transformation of how we look at our planet and the impact we have on it, reads a preamble to the plan signed by Ms. Wynne. So we got a lesbian premier, and we've got a gay environment and climate change minister working hand in hand, dancing through the tulips as they put up this UN plan, our next UN plan. It is a transformation that will forever change how we live, work, play, and move. Highlights include $3.8 billion for new grants, rebates, and other subsidies to retrofit buildings and move them off natural gas and onto geothermal, solar power, or other forms of electric heat. Now, here in Ontario, they took us off coal. They built windmills. Then they backed the windmills up with natural gas, which are actually more dangerous to human health, according to the senior policy advisor of the Ministry of Energy, who I spoke to years ago, because they're great emitters of ground-level ozone. Very hard for the body to deal with the fine particulate coming out of them. So we got rid of the coal plants. We could have easily just put the scrubbers on them. That would have fixed everything. Oh, it doesn't stop CO2. Damn it. Stops all the pollution, but doesn't stop CO2. So gas is probably a third, maybe, compared to electricity to heat your home with. And I would say at least 60% of this province is heating with natural gas. So there's going to be some serious problems going on here for the people because they won't be able to afford it. And then, to top it off, the government legislated our Green Energy and Employment Act. And through that, or is somewhere in there, they created the OEB, which is not even touchable by anybody in Ontario, created by the Ken Lay bunch and the Bush bunch and the Enron lobbyists. And they alone have the authority to deal with the price of natural gas and electricity. So you take natural gas out of the picture, Just think how frickin' high the cost to heat your home is going to be. Now, they don't say anything in here about taking away your right to use a wood stove, but that's already on the butcher block because it says here that you'll heat with geothermal, solar, or other forms of electric heat. And wood ain't electric. So kiss your wood stove goodbye. Now your insurance company going to come, just like they did with the oil tanks, and you ain't going to be able to afford insurance, or the insurance companies, who are all part of this globalist nonsense, are going to say, well, we can't insure your home if you have a wood stove. Many of these programs will be administered by a new green bank modeled on a similar agency in New York State to provide financing for solar and geothermal projects. New building codes rules that will require all homes and small buildings built in 2030 or later to be heated without using fossil fuels such as natural gas. This will be expanded to all buildings before 2050. Other building code changes will require major renovations to include energy efficiency measures. All homes, I love this, all homes will have to undergo an energy efficient audit before they are sold. So you go to sell your house, you're going to have an audit, and somebody's going to pick up the price on this thing. Either you, the seller, are going to take a bath, or the buyer is going to have to come up with some more money. This is all about the end of right of property. Okay, and it said so in the 1976 Conference on Human Settlements. Very specific that property can no longer be held in private because it's a form of social injustice. And this is all about social justice, isn't it? Let's see, $285 million for electric vehicle incentives. These include a rebate up to $14,000 for every electric vehicle purchase, up to $1,000 to install home charging, taking the province portion of the HST off electric vehicle sales, an extra subsidy program for low and modern income households to get older cars off the road and replace them with electric, and free overnight electricity for charging electric vehicles. The province will also build more charging stations at government buildings, including the LCBO outlets, and consider making electrical vehicle plug-ins mandatory on all new buildings. The plan sets targets for expanding electric vehicle sales to 5% of all vehicles sold by 2020 and 12% of vehicles sold by 2025, aiming to get an electric hybrid vehicle in every multi-vehicle driveway by 2024, a total of about 1.7 million cars. New lower carbon fuel standards will require all liquid transportation fuels such as gasoline and diesel to slash life cycle carbon emissions and 5% by 2022. The plan will also provide a $176 million incentive to fuel retailers to sell more biodiesel and 85% ethanol blend. The government will also oblige natural gas to contain more renewable content such as gas from agriculture and waste products. $280 million to help school boards buy electric buses and trucking companies switch to lower carbon trucks, including by building more liquid natural gas fueling stations. $354 million toward the GO regional rail network, $200 million to build more cycling and infrastructure, including curb-separated bike lanes and bike parking at GO stations. $375 million for research and development into new clean technologies, including $140 million for a global center for low carbon mobility at the Ontario University or College to develop electric and other low carbon vehicle technology. $1.2 billion to help factories and other industrial business cut emissions, such as buying more efficient machines. $174 million to make the government carbon neutral. This will include retrofitting buildings, allowing some bureaucrats to work from home, and buying carbon offsets. The actions expected to cause the largest emissions cuts by 2020 are moving buildings and the electricity system off natural gas, 3 million tons. Programs to make industry more efficient, 2.5 million tons. The low carbon fuel standard, 2 million tons. The renewable content requirement for natural gas, 1 million tons. And switching trucks and buses to liquefied natural gas and electricity, 400,000 tons. Cutting natural gas, which currently provides 76% of heating, will require mass. I was wrong on that one. I thought it was about 60%. So 76% of the people doing any heating in this province are doing it with natural gas, which is probably a third, if not, about a third of the cost of electricity. There's gonna be some awful large pain going on here unless we get some rope somewhere. Let's see. Cutting natural gas, which currently provides 76% of heating, will require mass adoption of green technology in buildings across the province. The plan lists geothermal systems, air heat pumps, and rooftop solar panels as technologies will be eligible for rebates. It could also require an expansion of the electricity grid. The plan promises, however, to subsidize any increased electricity costs for homeowners. Well, what do you mean subsidize it? You just put it up 3 times once you take them off gas. And the electricity prices have gone up 300% since they started this nonsense. So what are you going to do? You're going to subsidize 76% of the people heating their homes? By how much? The difference? Where are you getting the money? You ain't got it. You can't get it. You're full of crap. Anyways, the electric vehicle targets represent a sea change for the province's $16 billion auto sector. By 2025, the goal would boost to about 86,000 the number of annual electric vehicle sales, more than 20 times the number of electric vehicles sold in the province so far this century. Already the plan is causing tension. No shit. Pitting Mr. Murray, that's the gay gentleman with the bow tie, against Energy Minister Bob Chiarelli. Now, and Economic Development Minister Brad Dougall. Mr. Murray's colleagues, sources said, complained that he often did not bother to consult with other ministers as he drafted the strategy and ignored their advice when he did. What's it matter? This is all coming from the UN. These other ministers are shills. These other ministers this is problem, reaction, solution again. Okay? But sooner or later, they all come together. Right? Energy officials were particularly concerned about the new Green Bank, contending its functions could be handled by the independent electricity system operator, sources said Mr. Dougall. Meanwhile, was worried about the effect on the auto sector. Mr. Murray also aggravated colleagues with an economic club speech last month in which he chastised auto companies for not doing enough to fight climate change and mused about closing down the province's nuclear power plants. The behind-the-scenes battle played out at a meeting of cabinet ministers involved in the climate file 2 weeks ago, and Mr. I don't have a clue Chiarelli and others confronted Mr. I got a bow tie and I'm gay Murray with their complaints, sources said. After the Globe subsequently revealed the clash, all parties have tried to play it down. We're working very well together. I'm very excited about it. We have a very, very good, strong team, and we've worked very hard for 2 years, Mr. I got a bow tie and I'm gay. Maybe I'll be transgendered by the time this is done, Murray said last week. Mr. Chiarelli, who's going in for his special operation in 4 weeks, for his part, acknowledged there had been debate at Wednesday's cabinet meeting, but said it ended with 100% consensus on the climate plan. So see, we have some discourse up here, we have some disagreement up here, but back down here we get near the bottom. Mr. Chiarelli, for his part, acknowledged there had been debate at Wednesday's cabinet meeting, but said but said it ended with 100% consensus on the climate plan. We have a normal amount of debate on this issue, he said. If you were to put a leak on every cabinet meeting, or if you were to get a leak on every cabinet meeting, you would find out. You know that there's a good airing of points of views on issues. Asked if Mr. Murray had to change or water down the plan to get cabinet buy-in, Mr. Minister of Energy, Shirelli, while he cracked a grin, the grin of a sly fox, a weasel, a criminal, that kind of a sly grin. You know what, says Shirelli, I'd be breaking my oath if I told you that, he said. You know that. So there you go. Being taken down in the back rooms through secrecy and oaths and other nonsensical stuff, all doing the bidding of the globalists and the UN and Israel. Might as well throw Israel in there as well. And this is where we are at now. The future of your children and grandchildren is about hit the wall. The question is, what's mommy and daddy and grandma and grandpa going to do about it? What they going to do about it? And let's see here. Donald Trump files disclosure claiming net worth of $10 billion. Well, that makes him presidential, doesn't it? Okay, now, I'm going to pop back here for a second. And I want to see what's cooking here, because apparently we got the fire going up north again. Where did I see that? Let's see. Toronto mayor commits city to transgendered rights. Now, I met that dick when I ran as an independent in 2007. He was the leader of the Conservative Party at the time, the Provincial Conservative Party, and they lost so bad that they kicked his ass out of there. And how do you kick somebody that useless out of there? And then he ends up being the mayor of Toronto. Because it's all kind of working together. Well, let's go quickly here before I got time to sit this for a second. And then go and I am so sick of rainbow flags, man, I got to tell you. Let's see. Toronto mayor commits city to transgender right. The rainbow flag raising at Toronto City Hall happened as the federal government tabled a bill to protect trans rights. As the federal government moved to protect transgender Canadians, Toronto mayor promised his city will lead the fight for gay and trans rights. Everybody else go suck air. John Tory told people at City Hall raising of the rainbow flag Tuesday that traveling abroad, he learned his city is best known for its ability to take people as they come, celebrate people as they come. In the U.S., there are states that are banning trans men and women from public bathrooms, while here in Toronto, we built at Regent Park some of the most gender-inclusive facilities in the world, said Tory, while lauding the landmark legislation tabled by Jody Wilson-Raybould in Ottawa. The bill, it would, if passed, make it illegal to prevent someone from getting a job. Okay, it's just a rehash of that. Asking what has changed for trans people in the past decade, Nikki Ward said before the flag raising, well, I'm not being arrested for staying here, so that is certainly a step forward. Well, I know lots of people that aren't trans that have been arrested for just standing somewhere, so I guess we're going to have to come up with our own flag, maybe a nice white flag or something. The bill is designed to stop discrimination, yada, yada, yada. It's a very big deal. Tory was joined by more than a dozen councillors to raise the flag, marking the annual International Day Against Homophobic and Transphobia. There's another one of those UN International Days. So we know where all this crap's coming from. Ann Creighton, president of the Toronto chapter of Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, urged people to demand that schools offer bathrooms that not identified as being for one gender. As the mother of a kid who was routinely who is routinely, because she is gender queer, thrown out of both men's and women's washrooms. These kids need a place to pee. Let's do it, Creighton said. Fight me, is what I say. Yeah, freaking lunatics. Let's see here now. Where'd the fire go? Yes, this will get me to the end, I guess. The wildfire heads towards oil plants as explosions hit Fort McMurray. Fort McMurray, the Fort Mac reentry plans under review as Alberta Premier Rachel Notley says it's safety first. It's all about safety. All about safety. Wildfires menacing Fort McMurray carved a new path of destruction Tuesday, destroying an oil sands work camp to the north and forcing reconstruction staff out of the evacuated city of Fort McMurray. On top of that, the process of restoring natural gas was dealt a setback when a home in an area that was getting service blew up on Monday night, destroying the house and damaging 6 others beside it. Premier Rachel Notley said the developments underscore the volatility of the situation and forced reevaluation of plans to get residents back in their homes. Well, we knew this was going to take forever, didn't we? Okay, we knew it. Safety will be and must be our first principal priority, Notley told in a news conference in Edmonton. But safety doesn't seem to be a high priority in these transgendered washrooms. But this is a different ballgame, I guess. I hope you have to say more about our specific reentry plans within the next week, she says. Scott Long with the Alberta Emergency Management Agency said the cause of the house explosion is under investigation. He said ATCO gas workers who have turned gas on to about 60% of the structures in Fort McMurray have left the city due to the fire threat and will use the pause to determine what caused the house to blow up. If they have to change protocol, they will, said Long. There was also a fire Monday night in a separate neighborhood that damaged 3 condo units in a complex, Long said. It's also under investigation. About 400 people working around the clock to get the Fort McMurray Hospital open again were also pulled out as a precaution. The plan to get some retail business owners into the city early to ready essentials like grocery stores and pharmacies is also on hold due to deteriorating air quality. More than 80,000 residents have been now out of their home for 2 weeks after the entire city of Fort McMurray was ordered evacuated. Let's see. That's about 10% of the city was destroyed, 2,400 buildings. However, critical infrastructure, including the hospital, water treatment plant, and airport, remain intact. The fire has moved north late Monday, forcing about 8,000 oil sand workers lodged in a number of camps to flee. Most went north, but some headed south. On Tuesday morning, Notley confirmed that the blaze destroyed a 655-unit work camp and was threatening 2 others. Rod Graham, president of Horizon North, which owns the Level Black Sand Executive Lodge, said the facility was fully insured and could be rebuilt in about 6 months. It was distressing, deja vu for many workers who had fled the fire before and returned in recent days to get production running again. Jeff George, a 51-year-old Suncor worker, was moved to another camp further north. He can't wait for life to get back to normal, he said, but is resigned to waiting it out in the comfort with great food and air conditioning, pool tables, and dartboards. No problem there. Planes were available to evacuate workers again if necessary, he said. It's bad, but it's not as bad for us. I think people, as people think, said George, they're keeping everybody out of the way and safe. We've just got to be patient. Hopefully we'll get out of here soon. The evacuation zone is stretching about 50 kilometers north of Fort McMurray to just south of Fort McKay, included Syncrude and Suncor facilities, along with several smaller operations. The Premier said the focus of firefighting efforts would be protecting other work camps. Suncor said in a news release that it had started a staged and orderly shutdown of our base plant operations, that personnel were being transported to work camps further north. It stressed there has been no damage to Suncor infrastructure. Suncor has enhanced fire mitigation protection around all of its facilities, and so the release. High winds have spurred the quickly spreading wildfires. Tinder dry conditions persist in the region. Weather conditions will make this work extremely challenging. Westerly winds will push the fire closer to Suncor and Suncrude, but we expect very high resiliency with both of those facilities, said the Premier. The wildfire, which has grown to about 3,550 square kilometers and was expected to reach Saskatchewan boundary Tuesday. And that's some of what's been going on here and around. But, we are in a time that we had best put our foot down. The idea is that you won't own your own vehicle. Then I know there's lots of people out there listening, and I've talked to lots of people who say, well, I'm of the age now, by the time they get this all in place, I'll be long gone anyways. To you, bite me. Go get assisted suicide today. Okay, you got a duty to stand up, and this nonsense of, well, I'll be long gone before this is all in place. You shouldn't have been here in the first place. You're the problem. You're the big problem. I mean, here's a story here from Marcus Guy. Ending the tyranny of the car in Toronto requires political courage. Okay? Now, if you go and look at, I forget what the name of the city, but the main city in North Korea, go look at that city. That's where you're headed, folks. Okay? There's a reason North Korea was never bombed. Okay? It's a template. They're working it over there. The reason North Korea has never been bombed is because that's your future. The only they've got beautiful wide streets. They got buses. They got subways. But up on top on the street, you see people walking, biking, and taking transit. You don't see dick all cars on that big wide street, except government vehicles, the odd high-level vehicle, and maintenance vehicles. That's about it. The rest of you are walking. They're taking your bicycle. Look at North Korea when they have Earth Day or whatever. Okay, they always show you how dark North Korea is. All right? That's what they're chasing. That's your future. Total government tyranny. And if you don't do what you're told to do, well, tough luck for you. Now, just before we go, I'm going to put a video in. This is the video I put up. I don't know why I got banned this time, but I did put this little video up here. So I got to go get it again. Let me just see if I can do this before we get off the air. I'll stick it in the, come on, let's go here. Let me get a hold of that. I'll stick this in, and you guys can watch it. If you like it, throw it up on your site, throw it up on YouTube or whatever. And it's not a bad little video. The guy did, and so all you can do is appreciate what he did. Music's not bad, not that bad a singer. So, enjoy it. And my computer's hanging up here pretty good right at the end of today. So I don't even know if we're through or out or in or what. It's not responding very well here. All right, I did say okay. It's kind of hanging up here. Anyways, everybody have a great night. We'll be back here on Thursday night. Whatever lunacy plays. Planet.